Hey, what's going on? Luke here. For today's video, we are here to preview State of Origin Game 2 2021. Now, going into this game, New South Wales hold a 1-0 lead after picking up a 50-6 victory over the Maroons in Townsville. Now, the Maroons, not a normal thing. They have 2 home games in a row. Obviously, the first game was supposed to be in Melbourne, but due to the COVID stuff, it ended up being in Townsville. So it was sort of a makeshift home game, but this is the proper home game. This is at Suncorp Stadium. I'm expecting a different Maroons side. However, I will say straight up, I'm sort of expecting a similar result. I don't think the Blues will put 50 on them. I don't think anyone really expected that in Game 1. But in Game 2, I definitely think the Maroons will have more of a game plan. They'll know what they're up against. Whereas they went into that game as the sort of the reigning champions. But last year, they didn't come up against Tom Trbojevic. They didn't come up against Latrell Mitchell. And obviously, Jerome Lawar wasn't there. Nathan Cleary's got another season under his belt and has gone to another level. So the New South Wales side has definitely gone to another level as a whole. So I think the Queensland side, they might have went in with a bit of a false sense of security of this New South Wales side. Yeah, it's good on paper, but they don't normally produce on the field. But this time, they definitely did produce. Tom Trbojevic was outstanding. Latrell Mitchell was outstanding. Tedesco was the same old Tedesco we all know. Halves were great. The forwards laid the platform. The backs in particular actually probably laid the platform. I think the actual numbers for the forwards weren't great, but they defended their asses off. It was just a great team performance from everyone in New South Wales. And Queensland needed to make changes, and that's exactly what they've done. Some of them were sort of out of their hands. Harry Grant obviously has been injured. Reed Marnie, they made the dumbass decision to let him go back and play at club level. He ended up getting injured. So there goes your number 1 hooker and your number 2 hooker. Now they're down to Andrew McCullough, who was unwanted by the Broncos. Had a mid-season swap to the Knights, did his knee, ended up at the Dragons. He's been fairly solid for the Dragons, but I would say he's probably not even the best hooker at the club. You got Ben Hunt there, who's on the bench. I think he's a better hooker. I'm surprised they didn't actually start him, but I think they've got him on the bench just purely out of utility value because he can cover the halves. He can also play hooker, just add that little bit of spark off the bench. But for me, I worry for Queensland the fact that they're sort of banking on Ben Hunt to come on and make an impact. Dave Fafita, another one, they've dropped to the bench. They're relying on their bench to pack a punch, and I'm just worried that the game will already be over by the time these guys get on the field. The New South Wales side definitely have the capability to just come out and just blow Queensland off the park. They did it in Game 1. They can definitely do it in Game 2. At halftime, I know Queensland scored in Game 1 sort of right in halftime, but I think we all know the game was over. It was kind of like the grand final. We're like, oh, well, maybe Queensland can sort of come back and make a little bit of a contest, but it's over. Storm had already won in the grand final. Penrith made a bit of a comeback. Instead, this time, this would be if the Storm just went on and just absolutely annihilated them in the second half. That's exactly what New South Wales did. And going into Game 2, they did have to make changes. Like I said, I've already talked about the hooker position. The fullback position is another one. I don't know if it's gotten stronger or weaker. I really don't know. Reece Walsh comes in. Valentine Holmes goes to the wing. A lot of talk about Ponga coming back in. I think that was what they wanted. Even Brimson, I think, would have been a good choice, but both of them out injured. Or I'm pretty sure Brimson's injured. He didn't play in the last game for the Titans, so let's just go with injured. You had 2 quality fullbacks, and it's not the same situation as the hooker position. You have your number 1 fullback, you have number 2 fullback, and now they're sort of going into the 3rd string, 4th string sort of fullbacks as well. And last year they got away with it just purely because New South Wales were absolutely terrible, but this year it's a different New South Wales. Like I said, there was no Latrell, no Tommy Turbo. Just the team as a whole is a complete different side from last year, even just mentality-wise, because they went into last year after winning 2 in a row, and it was sort of like, oh, well, this is the worst Queensland side. We can just coast through this one, and you can't do that Origin level, and New South Wales found that out. But now they've got that desire. They've just absolutely torn up Queensland in Game 1. Going into Game 2, Queensland are blooding a rookie. Reece Walsh is a rookie even in NRL senses, and they've chucked him in the deep end at Origin level against probably one of the best New South Wales sides of all time. Like, if you even look at just individual talents, I'm not even talking about their performances, but you just go through individuals. You've got Jack Whiten on the bench, who's the reigning Dally medal winner. He's won a Clive Churchill like the previous year, I think it was. You've got guys like him who are even on the bench and can't even crack the starting side. So it does say a lot about the talent of the New South Wales side. In terms of the actual side itself in New South Wales, obviously Jake Trbojevic is out due to injury. He's the only change. And who do you bring in? Probably the best second rower in the comp. Angus Crichton comes in, not in the starting side. He's going to be on the bench, but it is a bloody good player to bring into the side. And also, Angus Crichton's not a prop. And Jake Trbojevic, when I think of Jake Trbojevic, I think of a lock, but he doesn't play lock in the rep level. So he's been playing as the starting prop. Junior Paulo comes in, and I thought Junior Paulo was really, really good in the last game. I thought him and Payne Haas, they really just brought that impact off the bench. So it does change the dynamic a little bit for the Blues side. I'm having Junior Paulo start rather than coming on against sort of the second stringers. Even the bench for the Queensland side, it's not exactly fantastic. Like, you got guys like Francis Molo who are decent players, but they're not outstanding. Actually, that is a lie. Their bench is actually pretty good. You got Ben Hunt, Dave Fafita. Fodawaker was probably their best player last game. But just in terms of just the big boppers, Queensland don't really have the big boppers. Dave Fafita can come on and he can run at the edges. He's obviously fantastic at that. One of the best in the game, and I'm shocked that he's ended up on the bench. But in terms of the big boppers, New South Wales have definitely got them, and I think they can just run straight over the top of them if needed. But I don't think they'll even need it. I think the Blues backs are just too strong for the Queensland side. You got Kurt Capewell still in the centres. I think that's a bad move for them. I don't really know who you'd pick instead, because I feel like the other guys are still sort of fringe first graders if you chuck them in. So Kurt Capewell's kind of just there. Similar to like Reece Walsh, similar to McCullough, just because they purely don't really have anyone else. But just in a sense, Kurt Capewell being in the centres up against Tommy Turbo. I can't remember if it was Tommy Turbo or Latrell he's up against. I think it was actually Latrell. But whoever he's up against, either of the two, he's in huge trouble. He's in huge trouble. He got away with it last year because he was up against Gutherson, who's not a centre. He's a fullback. He played a little bit of centre, but like, New South Wales had makeshift centres. They had guys who have played fullback and 5'8" and were coming into the Origin arena playing centre. And Queensland got away with it because New South Wales are doing it. Now they've gone into this one, and they've got guys who are genuine world-class centres. They play other positions for club level because they're just sort of too good to play there at club. But we all know Latrell Mitchell, when he was playing centre, he's the best centre in the world, no doubt about it. I know there's talks of Joey Manu and stuff, but Latrell Mitchell is the best centre if he wants to play centre. Same could be said for Tom Trbojevic. If he wanted to play centre, he would be playing centre, but instead, all of your best centres, they end up playing fullback, and that's exactly what's happening with the Blues. You got Tom Trbojevic, you got Latrell Mitchell, and Tom Trbojevic essentially plays as a second fullback anyways for the Blues. So it's a very interesting game plan from New South Wales and from Freddie, but I absolutely love it, and I'm keen to see how it goes in this Suncorp deck. I know a lot of the Melbourne guys, I don't think they've lost at Suncorp, and so you guys like Cameron Munster, I'm expecting them to step up, but for the rest of it, I think this is going to suit the Blues. A nice fast pitch for them. You got the backs coming in. You got your Addo cars. You got Brian To'o. I said the name right. Brian To'o coming in, just ripping in the middle. They just make a hell of a lot of meters. And I know Queensland have got Josh Papali'i back, and Christian Welsh is going to be there for the whole game. So they're definitely going to be a lot better, Queensland. But I just can't see any way in which New South Wales don't win this one. I know I went out here and I went on the limb and I said the same thing last year, but when the game was starting to get closer, I remember thinking, Queensland are a chance. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't feel any of that this year. I feel like after the performance of the last game, I know Queensland will be fired up, and they're talking about that photo with Jerome Luai, but I just feel like just the halves in New South Wales are too strong, hookers too strong, fullbacks too strong, the backs in general are too strong. Queensland have got some decent players. They've got some really good players, obviously better than decent. You got Munster and you got Cherry-Evans, very, very good players, but they've got a few really good players in amongst a lot of sort of fringe first grade guys, or guys who are sort of just in first grade. There's no real superstars, whereas New South Wales, they're absolutely full of it. So if everything goes to plan, New South Wales should absolutely carve up Queensland. But I think we all know that we can never write off Queensland. So although I do feel confident, I don't want to come in here and say that, Queensland are going to get absolutely decimated, because they probably won't. I expect them to be a lot better. It's in front of the Suncorp Stadium. It is a home game. The last one, like I said, was a home game, but it was a makeshift home game. It was one that sort of happened last minute. So this is the one that I think Queensland fans were really up for. Townsville, obviously, it happened, but it's just not the same as Suncorp. And I think even the Blues sort of players, I think they'll even tell you that it's just a different element than playing at Townsville. Like at Townsville, it probably didn't even feel like obviously it felt like an Origin game, but just in terms of it's never played there. So I suppose there was just like a weird feeling probably. But yeah, this New South Wales side, I feel like a once-in-a-generation side. Talk about the Queensland side, and they went on their big run. I feel like the New South Wales side has the potential to go on a bit of a run themselves. They just have too many strong players, and they're all young too. So it's not like they're guys who are in the peak of their career or whatever. Maybe you guys like Tedesco are sort of hitting the peak of their career, but like you guys like Tommy, even like Jerome Luai, Nathan Cleary, Damien Cook's probably the lone sort of old dude in the side, and he's not even old. He's like, 29, 30, something along the lines of that. So he's got a couple of years left in him, and then Api Koroisau comes in. So this could be the start of a Blues dynasty. This could be the start of a Blues 3-0. I don't want to sit here and be super confident, but it's bloody hard not to after your team just won 50-4 last game. It was an absolute annihilation. And like I keep saying this, I don't expect it to happen in this game. However, I still expect the Blues to win 13+. The Queensland side for me, yes, it's probably marginally better than last game. And obviously Papali'i's back, and he's going to be a huge inclusion. Christian Welsh going to be there for the whole game, barring a head knock. Like obviously you got the head knock last game, but I don't think I like the move of taking Dave Fafita out of the starting side. I don't think it sort of builds a lot of confidence in him and also that side as well. And Jai Arrow, I can't really recall him playing on the edge that often. So, and also just the 4-pack in general wasn't the reason the Blues won. Obviously, they laid a decent platform, but the backs came in, and obviously the backs are still so much better for the Blues than the Maroons. And I think even going into this game, I think they're even better. Like, I think Reece Walsh, he has the potential to be a really, really good fullback in the future, but for me right now, his guy's played 7 games, and he definitely looks like a guy's played 7 games. He can come in, he can have some good moments. He can also have some really bad moments too. You go through and you watch some highlights. I saw it on Twitter. People find his defense is absolutely atrocious. And this is what's, a lot of the talk about Origin is, defense wins matches. And I know that's not necessarily the case these days with all the restarts and rule changes, but you need to have good defense in Origin. It's essential. How many times did New South Wales nearly win the game against the best ever Queensland side because they could defend? They got so close purely out of great defense, and it was just those guns who got Queensland over the line. And New South Wales have plenty of those guns, and Queensland don't have the defense to stop them. I know McCullough's been brought in, I think, for me, just purely to sort of defend in the middle, but it's that they've taken sort of 1 step forward, 2 steps back in bringing in Reece Walsh for me. I know the attack's there, but I just can't see them outscoring New South Wales. I think even if they attack pretty well, New South Wales is still going to attack better. So for me, New South Wales is going to win this one at 13 plus. I think it's going to be a popular opinion, to be honest, as well. I think in terms of your first try scorer, I might go with Tom Trbojevic. I know it's a pretty sort of, Tom Trbojevic is going to score. I think he'll definitely score at some point. Whether it's first try scorer, I don't know, but that's who I'm going to go with. Let's go last try scorer. I'm going to go with, I'll go with Payne Haas. Just like a random one, a random forward. I think they'll just barge their way over. Similar to what Safidi did. I think he scored right at the end as well. So, yeah, we'll go for a similar try like that. In terms of man of the match, I'm going to go with Nathan Cleary. I think he'll stand up in this one. We've been waiting for Nathan Cleary to just completely dominate a series. He's been in there for, 3 or 4 years now. I think this is his third year, fourth year, something along the lines of that. And he's never really fully stamped his authority on Origin. He's had a couple of good games now, but I'm just waiting for him to just have that man of the match game, because he's always been pretty decent, but he's had guys around him who have been really good, and maybe this is the game that Nathan Cleary comes out and does it and wraps up the series for New South Wales. So yeah, I'm thinking a 13 plus victory for New South Wales. First try scorer Tom Trbojevic, last try scorer I'm going with Payne Haas, and I think your man of the match would be Nathan Cleary. Guys, leave in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on the game? What are your tips? What are your predictions? Do you think I'm being too harsh in Queensland? Do you think I'm not being harsh enough? Do you think I'm sort of just gassing up New South Wales too much? And New South Wales really that good? I know they've only won 1 game, but it was 50-4. So Queensland are the champions. I've got to remember that. So they definitely can come out, and they do have a champion team, and most importantly, a champion mentality. So Queensland can definitely get up for this one. I just can't see them getting the win. But like I said, leave in the comment section below, what are your thoughts of the game? Who do you think is going to win? Anyways, if you happen to enjoy this little preview, my little predictions, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also, make sure to use the notification bell. It's super important in terms of you actually seeing my videos. I've been posting so often, been posting heaps and heaps of videos, so don't miss out on any of my videos. Stay tuned for more content on the channel and use the notification bell to not miss out on those videos. Also, you get a little notification on your phone. It will come up. Just click on it, leave a first comment, leave a like, do whatever you want to do. Also, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. Everything's Mr. Luke and YT except for just my Facebook, which is Mr. Luke. So go ahead, give me a follow, give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. And like I said, stay tuned for more content on the channel. State of Origin Game 2 is tomorrow. I'm excited. Hopefully you are. And the last thing I'll say with this video is go the Blues.